Welcome back. Now let's talk about the vaccine rollout across the world. Now the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines have begun en masse in several countries. While no fewer than 50 countries have started administering the vaccine, only a few African nations have received it. The World Health Organization has in fact raised concerns that Africa is in danger of being left behind in vaccination as prices spike due to the competition being experienced in other regions. Now, this long wait is something the WHO thinks will compound the problem of the pandemic on the continent, and the world cannot afford to leave vulnerable countries to their fate. Let's take a quick listen now to the WHO Regional Director for Africa talk more on what the continent is experiencing at the moment.
What we are seeing now globally is not what we had hoped for. So we first, not me first, is the only way to end the pandemic. Vaccine hoarding by countries will only prolong the ordeal and delay recovery for Africa and also for the whole world. It would be deeply unjust if the most vulnerable Africans were forced to wait for vaccines while lower risk population subgroups in wealthier countries are made safe. Only through global solidarity will we end this pandemic.
Well, I guess everyone is trying to save their people first. Now, a few weeks from now, Nigeria will receive its first batch of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, but controversies keep growing about the use of the vaccine. The government has insisted that vaccination is one of the most important ways to keep citizens safe now from the pandemic. It has also released a sum of 10 billion naira to support domestic production of vaccine. Now, domestic production, please don't get that confused. So what the government is trying to do is to say, look, if Pfizer gives Nigeria the license to produce its own, to produce the Pfizer vaccine, then Nigeria will be able to produce the vaccine locally. So it's not as if we're not talking about this sum of money now is actually not meant for local vaccine research or local productions. It's just a reproduction of the Pfizer vaccine or any of the manufacturers now who would be willing to give us that license. Meanwhile, the WHO has confirmed that independent experts are probing the use of the much talked about anti-parasitic drug now, ivermectin or COVID-19 treatment now after promising results in some trials. Already some health experts have expressed reservations with the vaccine and have been touting the use of ivermectin as a viable alternative. Joining me now on the program is Professor Philip Njamanze, who is a neuroscientist. Professor, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Let me start by asking you, are you surprised at the seeming politics that is playing out now over the issue of vaccine? Because it appears the West is basically concerned about inoculating their own citizens first before considering other people, especially Africa.
Well, I still lost the first part of the question, but I got the second part, which from all indications you are asking why the first world countries want to vaccinate their people before they get to Africa.
Essentially, what I'm asking is, are you surprised that this is actually playing out?
I am not surprised because that's actually human nature. Self-preservation is the first reflex. But the primary question has not been asked. The primary question is, do we really need vaccination as a strategy for management of this COVID infection in Nigeria and in some of the African countries? And the answer to that question is no. That is not supposed to be the bedrock of the management of this infection.
Are you in any way suggesting that vaccine, that there's a problem with the vaccine, or that the vaccine may not be effective in preventing COVID?
Yeah, the vaccine, wait a minute. The issue is this. All vaccines are tailored to a virus variant. That means when you make a vaccine, if the virus mutates to some extent, then you are going to have that vaccine not to be effective. If it was effective at 90% for this variant, it might be effective at 50% for another variant, and even 30% for the other variant.
But at the moment, we do not have that situation, because of course you're quite right. That is a concern, given the fact that we're seeing several variants of COVID-19 now. But from what has been gathered so far, the understanding is that the vaccine is still effective for almost all the variants we have seen so far.
No, I think there is a misunderstanding here, and the problem is that the people managing this infection are very, very incompetent, and that's the politicians who have taken over this. We see this all the time when flu breaks out. When there is a flu infection, by the time we make the vaccine against that flu, the flu season is over. So what we use for the management of flu is actually the therapeutics, the drugs, which we use, which reduce the viral load and makes the body to manufacture the antibody, which is actually the defense. The defense is not the vaccine. The vaccine is just going to potentiate, is going to help the body to make a defense system, the antibodies. So that's the strategy is not about giving the vaccine. The strategy is to enable the body to make antibodies. So in order to make that, what you do is that you put in the drugs that reduce the viral load, the load of the virus in that person. So the person is not weighed down and buys time to make the antibodies. You don't necessarily need a vaccine to achieve that.
Could we say in this case, I mean, I understand your point quite perfectly.
Yes.
Now, what you're saying, don't you think that is in a situation where one has actually contracted the virus? But for those who have not contracted the virus, then the vaccine will no doubt be effective in protecting them, so to speak, from contracting it.
Well, you see, that's one of the fallacies they have been spreading around. It's not true. If you get the Pfizer vaccine, you can still get the infection. And there is what we call pathogenic priming.
Sorry, I'm interjecting, but what we've been told is that from the research that has been conducted, that when you get the vaccine, not just the Pfizer vaccine, even for other vaccines as well, that you have a protection window of about 5 to 8 months, right? Is that not what the researchers have actually said?
Okay. No, well, wait a minute. It does not mean that when you have the vaccine, you will not get the infection. If you get the infection, yes, you will still have the infection, but you will not have the antibodies to fight it. That's the issue. And that's what they are talking about, protection. So that means it doesn't mean that you will still not get infected with this. It doesn't mean that you will not have some mild symptoms, but because you have antibodies to defend you, it doesn't really break you down. Yeah. That's the whole argument when it works well. But there is the other aspect of that there is what we call pathogenic priming. You might get the vaccine, and when you get the vaccine, when the real virus comes, your body overreacts to it. When your body overreacts to it, the disease process becomes worse. We saw this in dengue fever in Southeast Asia. So what they are saying is an uncharted area. They are making so much presumptions. And quite frankly, with all due respect to the politicians who have been at the helm of this is total incompetence. They don't understand what the process is.
But everyone is being guided on this by the global health body, the WHO, the World Health Organization. So is there a chance that the WHO too could be getting this wrong?
The WHO has gotten almost every prediction in this infection wrong. And we saw that happen. The whole predictions on how this process, how they have gathered this process, they made this thing to become a pandemic. Because if it was contained in China when it broke out, this wouldn't have happened. All what the WHO needed to do was to announce that there was a person-to-person contact, and that is probably due to some political influence on them also, because I believe if the colleagues who are the doctors at WHO had the final say, they would have known the correct thing to do. So
let me get this straight, Prof. You are not by any way suggesting that people should not take the vaccine, are you?
No, well, it should not be a national strategy. If you got the vaccine and gave it to some healthcare professionals at isolation centers and those people who are actually at the forefront of doing direct intervention with the virus, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you want to have a national strategy, we have very, very good national strategy options here. Let's say, for example, let me give you a drug called ivermectin. We have been distributing this drug for river blindness all across this country since 1992. If you take that drug, the RNA viruses, not just COVID, COVID is one of them, but so many of them, the immune system is primed to fight them much, much better. Even the NIH this last week confirmed this also. So if we take it as a national strategy to make sure that every Nigerian gets the drug ivermectin as a major strategy, we will do more. In fact, it is at the same level as reconvalescent plasma, which has been working.
I believe you must have heard that some Nigerian scientists, I don't know if you're part of them, actually met with the vice president, and that the government is also looking at the possible trial of ivermectin. And of course, you must be aware too that the WHO too has said, the WHO has actually set up an independent panel now to look at reports from various countries now indicating that ivermectin too could be effective in the treatment of this pandemic.
Yes, I'm aware of that, and I don't think there is so much deliberation to be done and the whole political statement to be made out of this. This is a program that has been running since 1992. It is necessary to control river blindness. It is necessary to control filariasis. It's necessary to control most of the intestinal parasites. So it will do no harm to our people if we distributed it anyway. So which we were supposed to do in the first place. And we should take it as our national strategy. I don't think any African country should take as a national strategy to start distributing these vaccines and then doing it across the countries. It actually will serve no purpose, and it might be detrimental for the reason that we still do not know a lot about these vaccines. But we know a lot about ivermectin. Since 1992, I have taken it myself, and many people around here have taken it. So I think the truth of the matter is that you stay with what has been proven to work, that is safe. You don't use human beings for experiments. So
but the use of ivermectin too in the treatment of COVID, wouldn't that be experimentation?
It is not for us, because we are going to take it anyway. You live in an endemic area. Even where you are in an endemic area. So that has already been proven. You're supposed to take it anyway. But now we make it a point of duty to take it. What is experimental about is when a person has fallen gravely, mildly sick, or moderately very sick. So you now start using that, and then you have to give it at a higher dose. That is what it could be classified as experimental. But from the prophylactic point of view, it is not. It is something we are already doing. We have experience with it. And there is nothing that is hampering us to do that. You do what works. The drug is already free. It was given by Merck. And so many of the pharmaceutical companies have also made additional donations to this to help wipe out other parasites. So we work with what works, and that will give more results than even going for the vaccines.
As a matter of vaccines, this issue of ivermectin came up. I understand they are fast disappearing from the shelves in pharmaceutical stores across the country. So,
well
you
they
know,
were not supposed to be sold.
just like when the issue of hydroxychloroquine also came up, and suddenly you just
Yeah.
couldn't find them on the shelves.
On the shelf. Yeah, but they were not supposed to be on the shelves anyway because they were donated. So they are only given by Global 2000 or the River Blinders Foundation. So they are not supposed to be sold anywhere. Anywhere they are being sold is criminal. So what they are supposed to do in all the health centers is to bring out the stock. And then when they bring out the stock and distribute it to people, the same prescription, 12 milligram, we prescribe for river blindness every 6 months. That prescription does not change. And if we should maintain that, because it's easily accessible.
You know what, Prof? You know what? Let me just
Yes.
tell you this, Prof, just in case you
Yes.
don't know. A lot of people are watching us, and I can tell you, because you've talked about 12 milligram, you've talked about the prescription. I can assure you that since you've given the dosage, quite a lot of people will go look for this drug and want to try it.
Yeah, well, I must say that we already give it publicly because this is what we share in public. I mean, we bring it out, line up people, and then we just give them the drug. So we do that. So it's nothing new. The prescription, the prescription is already known. It's a public information. So I don't, but the only thing is, as we say with every drug, that you have to see a doctor so they can do some assessment in terms of whether you have any contraindications, whether you have any allergies. So it's advisable to see your doctor and then, talk to them. And I think the people who are sharing it from the River Blinders Foundation also will encourage you to do that. So I think we should do what works already, what is proven to work. It's regrettable that we have such a gross incompetence, not just in Nigeria, but around the world, because politicians have taken over the running of a very disease process that doctors should be doing.
And just before I let you go, Prof, why do you think Africa as a continent, despite being blessed with, the knowledge and the herbs, if you like, and what have you, why are we not able as a continent to come up with a solution to COVID-19? That is a homegrown solution.
We always look outside. What is coming from America? What is coming from Europe? But most of the things our people, both the traditional aspect, mind you, we have been here for thousands and thousands. We're the oldest people on earth. Nigerians are the oldest people on earth. That you wouldn't know. 150 to 240,000 years. So we have a lot of experience to deal with natural herbs, natural resources, and some of this knowledge is still present today. But the problem is when you have a government who is waiting to buy at 15.6 billion US dollars a vaccine that probably will not work down the road for Nigerians. I mean, when they can do this for less than $1 billion naira, getting some traditional remedies for it. So I think the problem is that we have priorities are misplaced, and this is totally mismanaged by people who are totally incompetent to manage any disease process. This should be left to doctors. We have been doing this, we study this, this is what we do. And we should be doing that. I expect that the NMAs, that the Nigerian Medical Association should have put teams together of doctors in the different states, local governments, to manage this infection, and with support of infrastructure from government. The government doesn't know how many patients have your governor seen in his life. So to know what a disease process is. So, and now he's going to manage a pandemic for 22 million people. I mean, it's too much to ask. So I think the best thing to do is that the politicians, even the presidential committee on coronavirus, should be scrapped. All what you should have is the national NMA to constitute a committee of doctors at the different levels.
Well, but in this task force, you have quite senior doctors and experts, medical experts, if you like.
Yeah, but that's not really how those experts will not give you what you want at the country level. What you need at the local level, you need people, doctors, to make inputs, know what works for them, how to coordinate their people, how to get them to tips. So you can't do this from Abuja or get some people consortium together and then tell them they will be putting mandates on the whole country on things that really doesn't work. And we are seeing the catastrophe is a mess of the whole thing, not just in our country, but even around the world. You can see the politicians have mismanaged the whole infection. We had Ebola here. Did you imagine how it's a far more dangerous infection? Why didn't you have a whole pandemic of Ebola? Only about just a couple of people died. Do you know how that happened? So it's not that doctors did that. And how did they do that? Let me just give you an example. When the Ebola virus infection broke, what we had to do was to shut down all the public hospitals. Why did we do that? Because if you had one Ebola patient arrive at Lut and infect 1,000 people, you will have a whole outbreak in the whole country.
Absolutely.
So we know what to do and we know how to do it. You should better leave it to doctors.
All right. I think that's where we will leave it. Thank you very much, Professor Philip Njamanze, a neuroscientist. Thank you very much for joining us on the program and for sharing your thoughts with us on this burning issue.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. We'll take a short break now. We'll be right back. On Deji360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent. Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country?
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that ballot.
Deji360, providing clarity to issues.